everything that comes through this earth starts as a seed. Some people have this idea or this misconception that starting small means thinking small. If you're going to fulfill everything that has been put inside you for the impact of humanity, you have to master the art of starting small. When we start small, it's actually good for us because you take something where the risk factor is low and then you start to build up gradually. Big opportunities only follow being diligent with small opportunities. Interpretation of dreams was not what made Joseph prime minister. He interpreted the dreams, and if Pharaoh had asked him, okay, so what do we do? If he was not someone that had practiced management, that had practiced being able to strategize and say, okay, let's do this. Oh, in order for this to work, let's do this. And doing that in Potiphar's house and in prison, he would not have even come up with that idea. He would have said, you know what? I think you should appoint an administrator to help with this. Me have interpreted the dream. You can't escape starting small. Hello, this is Olaomi Brigwe. It's season 2 of the podcast. Season 2 has 10 episodes, and all 10 episodes are going to be focused on one theme, and that theme is purposeful living. How can you, in a very practical way, begin to live out your purpose in everyday life? So today, I'm going to take it even further in this topic of purposeful living. I'm going to be talking about mastering the art of starting small. If you're going to live out your purpose, if you're going to fulfill everything that has been put inside you for the impact of humanity, right? You're going to have to learn to start small. You have to master the art of starting small. And so that's literally what I'm going to focus on in this episode. And this episode is going to be broken down into 3 parts. First of all, I'm going to talk about why we must master the art of starting small in order to live a purposeful life. In fact, I genuinely believe that if someone does not know how to start small, if they're always waiting for the big opportunities before they make a move, then clearly that person is going to underutilize the investments that God has put inside them for this earth. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the most common reasons why we're afraid to start small. And thirdly, I'm going to then share practical ways, practical strategies for you to start embracing the power of taking small, consistent actions in order to live a purposeful life. So are you excited? Let's get into it. I thought I'd introduce first of all, so I'll begin this episode by introducing the concept of starting small and maybe grounding it in the reality that everything that comes through this earth starts as a seed. There's something called the seed principle. Everything that is created starts as a seed, right? It starts as a seed. Everything that comes through into this earth comes through as a seed. A baby is born as a baby. No human being comes onto the earth fully formed. When God created the heavens and the earth, He created them fully formed, but then He has never created anything fully formed since that time. You will not say, oh, I would love to have a beautiful tree in my garden. So, God, could you come down, please, and come and create a tree? No. If you want a tree in your garden, you're going to have to implement the seed principle. So either someone has already done it and then you go and get or buy a tree off them and leverage that, or you're going to have to take a seed, plant that seed in order for you to get a tree. And it's the same with everything. I mean, think about it. One of the examples that I love to give is the fact that even when Jesus was coming as a man, so when God Himself was coming into this earth as a human being in order to redeem humanity, He didn't just float down from heaven, fully formed as a man, and then decide to come and save humanity. He had to be born of a woman into this earth. And I want to share the parable of the mustard seed. I love this parable so much. In fact, if at any point in your life where you're feeling a bit discouraged and you feel like I've been putting the work in and I'm doing everything I know to do, I know I'm on the right track, but where are the results? Where's the harvest? Always go back and read the parable of the mustard seed, and it can be found in Matthew 13, verses 31 and 32. And it's a very simple parable that Jesus told. It says that the kingdom of God is as a mustard seed, which being the smallest out of all the seeds is planted into a garden, but then it grows up to become an oak tree. It grows on to become a tree that is large enough, the biggest in the garden, that even the birds of the air come and then they find their shelter under it. In other words, you cannot expect to quote and unquote fulfill destiny from the top down. It has to be from the ground up. Nothing is built from the top down. Everything is built from the ground up. God actually emphasizes the value of small things, of starting small. He says, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you'll be able to move a mountain. You end up moving a mountain, which is a gigantic thing. So you end up doing amazing, mind-blowing things. But where does it start from? It starts with a seed. It says if you have faith as a mustard seed, and the mustard seed is used deliberately on purpose because it's a tiny, 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 tiny seed that produces something amazing. So we must master this art of starting small because, I'm going to talk about the psychological effect in a moment and how those things actually keep us stuck. And you find people for days, for weeks, for months, and even for years, decades, do not make any significant movement, any significant moves towards whatever it is, the dreams that they have, because they keep waiting for the big opportunities, not knowing that big opportunities only follow being diligent with small opportunities. You can't escape starting small. Let me repeat that. You cannot escape starting small. So the sooner you master this principle, the better it's going to be. And actually, the faster you find yourself moving towards the dreams that you have in your heart. Let me move on to the next thing I want to talk about, which is why don't we actually like starting small? So it's all well and good for me to understand that this is the principle. It's important. Yes, I know that a baby is born as a baby, not as a full-grown human being, but there's still some part of us that still wants instant gratification, that still wants the opportunity and the doors to open instantly. I start the work today and I want to be promoted to CEO tomorrow. I think that's in every single one of us. Impatience plays a part in that as well. So why do we actually not like starting small? What is that thing that keeps pushing us, wanting to speed up the process and to circumvent the process in order to finally arrive at the destination? I have 3 reasons that I've identified in my own life through my coaching and through, reading and all of that things. The first important reason why we're afraid to start small or we don't like starting small is because some people have this idea or this misconception that starting small means thinking small, or it's a reflection of a lack of ambition. If there's anybody on this earth that believes in thinking big, it is me. I love thinking big. You should not even come and ask me the kinds of dreams I have. I'm a visionary. In every season of my life, I'm always thinking far. 5 years time, there's some crazy, crazy dreams that I have regarding my life, regarding my family, regarding my work, regarding just everything that concerns me. So I 100% believe in thinking big. However, don't confuse the vision you have for the outcome with the first step you must take now in order to begin the journey to get to that outcome. So people think that, if an opportunity comes for something smaller, for an entry role, they may scoff at it because no, I can't be thinking small by applying or going for roles like that. I need to go for roles that are at this particular level. Now, am I saying that person will definitely not get that role, that high level role they're gunning for if they push and push? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the chances are usually quite slim. So it's not impossible. The Bible talks about the fact that time and chance comes to every single person. So opportunities will come that you did not deserve. It's just a cycle of life, isn't it? And it comes to every human being. However, even if that person happens to go for that role, they still need to learn certain things that they've bypassed by starting small. So somehow we feel like, if I don't enter into the job market or whatever it is, this stage of life at this point, then I'm thinking small, is beneath me, and so on. And that's not necessarily the truth. Starting small has nothing to do with thinking small. In fact, what I always advocate as a coach and I teach my clients is you must have both. Right? Your eyes must be tuned to both at the same time. So you have the long term where you are thinking absolutely big, bigger than you even think is possible for you at this point in time. At the same time, you are zoned in on what is the next step that I need to take in order to start moving in the direction of this big vision that I have. So starting small has nothing to do with thinking small. In fact, if you don't start small, it is reflection in some cases that you're not even thinking big enough. Because if you think big enough, you realize that there's no way this thing is possible for me. If you think really big, you'll be looking at the dream and the goal like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Like, it's so huge and it's so big. You'll be like, I better go and just start from where I am, because I don't even know how to piece two steps together to get to this thing. So let me just start with from where I am. So sometimes it's an indication that your goal is not big enough, because if your goal is big enough, you would not be able to take one step to get there. It's going to be a series of multiple steps that will get you there. So that's the first reason. It's a misconception that starting small means thinking small or a lack of ambition. The second one, of course, is pride. The second one is pride, because you're like, no, I have to maintain the status. I have to keep up with the Joneses. No. So pride is simply an overestimation of oneself. This person is actually operating at this level. Let me give you an example using the scripture in the Bible. The Bible says that if you faint in the day of adversity, the only reason is because your strength is small. In other words, the capacity that you have built inside you should be what you're reaching for in life. And so if you want something higher, if you're reaching for something higher, then you need to go and build your capacity to be able to reach for something higher. But if someone is at a certain level of capacity, but they're saying, no, I'm more than this, there's no way, and they just want to literally reach for something higher without building the capacity into them, and they feel like, no, I don't want people to look at me. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I don't want to start at this level. I just want to go straight. I mean, that person is not really going to move forward that much. They're going to end up being stuck for years and years and years. And I've seen this happen so many times. So it is pride. We don't want to start small. And of course, it feeds into the third one, which is entitlement. Entitlement is simply expecting results to automatically show up that you have not labored for. So that's entitlement. And let me tell you one of the easiest ways that entitlement manifests itself that stops us from starting small. And that is if you have built expertise in one particular area and then you're going into another area, starting from scratch, you're a newbie, but you think, because I'm an expert in this area, everything should just fall into place when I go into the next area. A very simple example is someone that's been a career guru. They've done so well in their career, high achiever. They've climbed to C-suite, and then they decide that they're going to start their own business. The number of times I've seen this, that people think that, because I'm C-suite, I was earning 7 figures in my career, and all of a sudden they think if I come and start a business, of course I'm going to start achieving the same level of success, and they're going for right at the top and so on. That's entitlement, because not all mountains are created equal. Because you have built expertise in one particular area does not entitle you to results automatically in another area. You have to go back to being a baby. You have to go back to being a student of that new craft in order to be able to master it. Okay, so let's move on to some of the negative psychological effects when we're not willing to start small. So by whatever reason, whether you think, it is thinking small, or it is pride, or it's entitlement, and you find yourself not willing to start small, I want to highlight some of the effects that this has and ultimately stops you from living out your purpose. The first one is setting grand ambitions from the onset creates a tendency to feel overwhelmed. And when you feel overwhelmed, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to what? Procrastinate, and you're not going to take action. What do I mean by that? Let me explain, by giving an example. Someone that's starting a business and they say in 3 years' time, I'm going to be the next Amazon. In other words, multi-billion-dollar company, and so on and so forth. And this person literally started their logistics company today. It's not like they've been working on it for 15 years and then they're rebanding or whatever. No. Newbie, fresh to this industry. And they're saying in 3 years' time, I'm going to be the next Amazon. Now, it's good to dream big, but if you're just going like that by setting these grand ambitions, I mean, you can set the grand ambition, but if you're putting a time limit on it that is going to squeeze the life out of you, you're going to be overwhelmed, because you notice this is what life will throw at you. You say, oh, by the end of the first year, we should be this and this and this and this. But life says, no, excuse me, before you become that this and this and this and this that you have prescribed, we're going to help you build some capacity first. So you actually will be growing immensely as a new business owner, but all of it is internal. So you're growing in your perspectives, you're growing in your wisdom, you're growing in your knowledge, you're growing in your skill to be able to run a business. And then when that starts to overflow, it will spill over into external results. So the person might find that the first 12 to 18 months, they're not even seeing notable results. Yes, they may be making enough for them to pay their bills, but it's definitely nowhere near Amazon. Now they're halfway through their 3-year plan and they're not even making 6 figures. Talk less of multi-billion-dollar company. When does that think, oh my God, this is what I want to achieve? And it's so grand that your brain can't even process it. You become overwhelmed, and overwhelm is the root of procrastination and inaction. So that's a psychological effect of not being willing to start small, to set, okay, this is my grand vision, but I'm going to start small and say, okay, this is where we want to be in 6 months. I just want to maybe have done my branding or something, or had my first customer, or do you know what? As in something along those lines. The second psychological effect, negative effect of not being willing to start small, is setting unrealistic expectations leads to impatience. And impatience leads to frustration and disappointment. Everything is all wrapped up together. So you start being impatient because you have this expectation that, no, I don't want to start small. I don't want to build up to my grand vision, but I want to literally jump in there from the start. Now, all of this ties into purpose, because that's why I said you have to listen to episodes 1 and 2 for this to actually flow. Because in episode 2, I talked about 4 expressions that will help you live out your purpose in every single day. So I talked about, number 1, your strengths. I talked about your pains. I talked about your gifts. And then I talked about your uniqueness. So there's certain things, there's certain dreams that you have in terms of wanting to impact humanity on a grand scale. And I believe that God puts those kinds of dreams in every single one of us. However, you're not going to start up today and say, I have this big dream of impacting the world on a global stage. And the moment you receive that dream, it's going to play out like that. If you keep applying yourself, I am the kind of person that I genuinely believe that everyone is marked for global impact in some form or shape. But it doesn't happen in a short space of time, meaning you're going to have to start small and then grow. So if we set unrealistic expectations, and the reason why it is unrealistic is the time frame. Time is what really trips us up. So it's not unrealistic if I say that I want to build a Fortune 500 company. If I have the whole of my life, or 20, 30, 40 years, and I just take time out of the equation, of course it's not going to be impossible to me, because I genuinely believe that with God, nothing is impossible. But if I set an expectation, I say, I'm going to do it in 3 years or even in 5 years, I just don't know what time is going to play out or how time is going to play out. Do you see what I mean? So if you remove time from the equation, because time is what really makes it unrealistic, not the goal itself. So impatience leads to frustration, which leads to disappointment, and disappointment that is frequent or back to back can lead to people giving up or abandoning their goals or the purpose or whatever it is that they set in front of them. Next, I want to talk about powerful reasons why you should start small. So I've talked about why we're afraid to start small. I've talked about the negative effects and the reasons why we shouldn't just wait for the big grandiose things. So I want to convince you or encourage you. So if you're someone that is already on this path of starting small, and every now and then you're getting a bit discouraged, like, is this thing even moving? I'm not really seeing that kind of big movement that I was hoping for. I just want to encourage you, and I want to give you 4 powerful reasons why you're not wasting your time by starting small. I want to encourage you as to why, if you're still waiting, if you're the person that is still waiting for the big opportunity before you start, I want to encourage you to start from where you are with what you've got. 4 reasons. Number 1, the first reason is starting small allows for learning and refinement. As you start small, you begin to see, so you are adding, you're growing literally in your knowledge. You're growing in your skill. You're able to refine. I'm going to use business as an example because it's very easy in this case. So again, going back to the person that was a career whiz and they decided to start a business, and they say, oh, okay, because I know I want to enter in at this level, so this is what I'm going to do. They go to central London and they book out one of the poshest offices you can think of. They put down, because they've been saving money, and they even maybe got some investors, which is very unlikely because investors want to see your growth. But let's just say in a hypothetical world, they got some investors. The investors gave the person $1 million or £1 million to start this business, and then they take 200K of that to go and rent offices and then furnish the offices and so on. And they hire maybe 5 members of staff, and so on. And they're really going at a really high level. They've not done anything prior to this. It's not like they started with their laptop in their bedroom and then grew. No, they just went all in. You'll be shocked at how common this is. I'm exaggerating it for effect, but you'll be shocked at how common this is. And so they do that, and then advertise, go on social media, buy ads, do a lot of PR, etc., etc. And then they open their doors. And they literally believe and expect that the clients will just start flooding in. That is going to be, they're going to be overloaded with clients and job requests, and all they hear is crickets. You know why that happened? Because they took their product, whatever their product is, and without testing the product, without releasing it first to friends and family, and then friends and family say, or they'll say, oh, I love it, but could you change that? And then after friends and family, then they started releasing it to people that are a little bit outside of their inner circle. And then it starts to spread, and they're getting feedback. They're refining the product, and they themselves as a human being, they are growing as well. They're able to manage people. They're able to manage things like marketing and sales. They're growing their muscles. They're growing their skills. They're building momentum. But no, we want to jump in from the 10th floor, literally, and someone like that is going to fail because life does not work like that. So when we start small, it's actually good for us because you take something where the risk factor is low, and then you start to build up gradually. You're putting out, you're testing things. You're learning that, oh, actually, this is how to do it. This is how not to do it. You're refining whatever that thing is, that purpose that you want to live out in your life. And then it grows from there. So that's the first benefit of starting small. The second one is it helps to grow you as a person. It builds character into you. And that is probably one of the most important reasons why we must be committed and we must master this principle of starting small. It just builds character. The Bible talks about how let patience have her perfect work. God is interested in you going from one level of patience to another level of patience. He wants to grow you. So you want to build your patience, your persistence, your perseverance, your resilience. because that's the measure of who you are. That's you as a person. Nobody can take that away from you. Even if something fails and you have built patience and perseverance, you walk away from that thing that failed a new person, a better person, and you're going to do better in the next venture. So starting small and being willing to grow is so important, because you grow as a person, you grow in character, you build your muscles, your perseverance muscle, your patience muscles, your ability to get knocked down and you get back up again, resilience. All of that comes from committing to the process of starting small. Because if you're going and jumping at the 10th floor, the kind of wave that will hit you, like I was talking, the person, for example, that spends almost £1 million just to open this big grand business simply because they were an expert in their field in the career. That kind of loss is so monumental that it can literally knock the wind out of them, that they're like, I'm not doing this again. I'm going back to my 9 to 5. But when you start small, you fail small. So the degree of your failure is small. The risk factor is low, but you are learning nonetheless. The third reason is starting small leads to compounded growth. Small, consistent actions, when they accumulate over time, they lead to significant results. One of the most impactful books I've read in my life so far is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. I love that book. It changed my way of thinking. It took my life to another level. Compound, as in, listen, tiny little things done consistently, they compound over time. You remember compound interest that we learned in maths, right? Literally, if you double something every single day, you'll be astounded at what you end up with at the end of the year. In the book, he gave an example of, if you start off, say I want to save money, and you start off by saving 1 pence, 1p, day 1, 1p, and then I double it every day or even every week. Day 1, 1p. Beginning of week 2, I double it to 2p, and so on. And then 4, and then 8, and then 16, and 32, 64, £1.28, and so on. And you keep doing that, you'll be astounded. You think it was 1p? You say, oh, well, how is 1p going to change my financial status? How is 1p going to make me financially independent? But you'll be shocked if you keep going, if you keep doubling, compounding it. By the 52nd week, by the end of that 1 year, the amount of money that you've accumulated. So that's the power of compound interest. It's a compound effect. So results compound. But if I'm not willing to start small and then remain consistent with my small actions, then those results will not compound. And the final powerful reason why you should commit to starting small and investing small, consistent actions is, and I think this one is so important, and I actually put in my notes, most important. Starting small equips you for the journey ahead. What do I mean? Now, when I actually say starting small, I'm literally talking about taking small, consistent action. But what I also mean is you start from where you are with what you've got. That's also my definition of starting small. So starting from where you are with what you've got. And I've shared this briefly in the first 2 episodes as to how someone has this dream that this is what I really want to spend my life doing. But they're stuck, quote unquote. They think they're stuck in a 9 to 5 that is nothing to do with how they want to spend their life. The same way Joseph had a series of dreams as to how he was going to be a top person and the sun, the moon, and the stars were going to bow down to him. Okay? So he had this beautiful dream. In fact, God gave him that dream. God gave him, it was more than one. God gave him those dreams. But when he was in Potiphar's house, he was sold into slavery and he went into Potiphar's house as a slave. As a slave, he was required to do administration. First of all, he probably would have been required to work in the field or something. Digging up, say, how is this relevant to my destiny? He said, how is this sun, moon, and stars bowing down to me? And people despise what is in their hands because they're longing for what is not yet in their hands, not understanding that what is in your hands, being faithful and diligent with it, is what opens the door to what is not in your hands. So starting small or starting from where you are with what you've got means that you are actually, so I hope this is a huge mindset shift. You are actually preparing yourself for the journey ahead, for the next stage of your purpose. Joseph didn't know that his ability to administrate, to be able to organize things and to keep Potiphar's house in tip-top shape was a skill that he would need when he was in the palace. He didn't know. I don't think he knew. In fact, people say interpretation of dreams. Interpretation of dreams was not what made Joseph prime minister. He interpreted the dreams, and if Pharaoh had asked him, okay, so what do we do? If he was not someone that had practiced management, that had practiced being able to strategize and say, okay, let's do this. Oh, in order for this to work, let's do this. And doing that in Potiphar's house and in prison, he would not have even come up with that idea. He would have said, you know what? I think you should appoint an administrator to help with this. Me have interpreted the dream. And last, he would have been given a reward. Like, okay, here's your reward for interpreting this dream. Thank you very much. Either off you go back to prison, which I doubt. Pharaoh may have been very glad and said, okay, he's a slave. No. Release him. Let him go back to his own, back to his house, give him silver and gold. But guess what, 14 years time, the silver and gold would have been useless because Jacob, his father, and all his brothers, they had silver and gold, but no food. They would have all perished. Start from where you are with what you've got. That is also an expression of starting small. I mean, let me give a very quick example. When I was still teaching, so I was a teacher for about 14 to 15 years, and I loved my job. I loved the impact that I was making every day. Don't get me wrong, the job was highly frustrating sometimes. I was demanding and all, as with everything else, but I genuinely loved being a teacher. I loved, and also, the higher I went, the more I loved it because the impact was greater. I wasn't just stuck in the classroom, even though I loved teaching. I could do more things with the kids, get groups of them together. I was able to impact hundreds of kids at one time. I really genuinely enjoyed what I was doing. But when the idea started to open up that the next stage of living our purpose is actually beyond the four walls of a building, of an organization. And I thought, okay, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So that's what I mean by, I just had this idea that there's something bigger meant to actually, it's meant to be international, not just within one school or within one organization. I had no clue how to get there or what the full expression of that even. So I didn't really see what I'm doing now as an option. It never occurred to me. But starting small meant, okay, what can I do now? What do I have now that I can do, even though I don't know where this is going to lead? And I thought, this was around the time, and I thought, okay, I got married around that time, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to start writing a blog about the adventures, I was going to say. I don't know if it was adventures, but I was going to chronicle my experience as a newly married, mature woman, because I got married when I was almost 40. So what that is like. So I started chronicling in a nice, fun, entertaining way. I love to write. I love to edit. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And I started a blog. Every week, I would publish my blog. Friday evening, I would publish my blog. I will work on it, take pockets of time throughout the week in my own time. So evenings and weekends, write my blog, publish it every Friday evening. And people were responding to it. It didn't grow to the point where you say, oh, wow, 1 million views of the blog. No, probably tens of people. It grew to about maybe 200 people viewing it every week, something like that. So it didn't particularly break the bank. It didn't particularly, make me a millionaire or make me impact the whole world. But it was something, and I enjoyed doing it, and I started with that. And people would give me feedback and say, oh, I really enjoyed it, or this really helped me, I continued doing it, and people were signing up to my email list. So I started to learn little things like that. But do you know that my first coaching client came to me from that blog? Because as I continued to do that, I became exposed to the world of coaching, went into transformational life coaching, started to get trained as a transformational life coach. And I remember after I got trained as a coach, in my normal weekly blog, I just signed off. So I would normally put, allow me Brigway, see you next week or something like that. And I just signed off transformational life coach. Somebody that was a regular reader of that blog immediately shot back an email to me. I said, you're a coach? You're a life coach. I need you to coach me. And that was the first person that signed me up as a coach. I didn't even advertise. I didn't even go and do this or do this. Nothing. It came to me. Why? Because I was willing to start small. And this person paid me thousands of pounds to coach them. And they had a transformational experience. And out of that, it grew. I created gems, and it has grown since then. But it started off with what? I started with what I had from where I was. So writing the blog, publishing it consistently, I didn't know that I was actually building up consistent muscles for me to start publishing stuff on social media. So from writing the blog, it went on to creating videos, and all sorts has grown out of that little quote unquote consistency. So there's a link between what you're doing now and the next stage of your purpose. Joseph could have thought it a waste of time to be an excellent administrator in Potiphar's house. Like I said, how is this going to help me, get the sun, moon, and stars to come and bow down to me? But those skills were absolutely crucial for his success in the palace. So that is the fourth powerful reason why you should consider starting from where you are with what you've got. And finally, I'm just going to wrap up with a quick reference to the story of David and Goliath. It's a powerful example of somebody in the Bible that started small. David's faithfulness as a neglected shepherd boy contributed to his willingness to face Goliath despite his small stature and lack of conventional armor. David would never have stepped out to fight Goliath if he had not fought the lion and the bear. If he had not started from where he was with what he had. Slingshot. He used what he had. He didn't say, I remember that this guy had been anointed, right? He had already been anointed as king. So he could have said, do you know what? The moment I was anointed as king, I'm just going to go and sit in my father's house. How dare they tell me to go and take care of the few sheep, which is exactly what his brother said. I'm not going. I'm now king of Israel. And then I'm going to sit in my house and I'm not going to, do you understand? If he had done that, he would not have had the skill, the experience, or the conviction to go and face Goliath, which was the next stage of him living out his purpose. So these things are so important. Very important. And I want to finish up with this example very quickly of someone that is well known. So her name is Malala. If you don't know Malala is a Pakistani activist who advocated for the education of girls. If you know her story, she started off with a blog. This person now, if I mention her name, it's very unlikely that you don't know who Malala is. She's now a global outcome. In fact, she's a movement. She's now a global movement for education equality. How did it start? With a blog. Honestly, she started writing and publishing blogs. And then by doing that attracted opposition. They shot her in the head and she survived. Thank God. She's now a global voice. She was, I think, the youngest person to ever receive the Peace Prize, Nobel laureate for peace. How did it start? A blog. The reason why I'm saying all these things is you will go through what is called the messy middle, where you are doing the tiny steps. And I don't see anything. It's coming. Go back and listen and meditate to those 4 powerful reasons I said why you mustn't abandon those small steps. You must not. You must stick with it because it is the precursor to that big thing that you're imagining. You can't get there without going through this rite of passage, right? And very quickly, I want to talk about strategies that will help you reorientate your mind to start small. And I have 3 strategies for you. Number 1, gratitude and contentment. How do you become the kind of person that is happy to start from where you are with what you've got? Gratitude and contentment with what you already have. So you are in a 9 to 5. Or you are in a job that you don't really feel like this has nothing to do with my purpose. I really want to be baking, or I really want to run a business, or this is really truly where my heart is, but you are an engineer currently. There's purpose in that thing, as I've showed you. There's purpose in that where you are, even if it's the most hated job on the face of the earth, there's purpose in it. But you will not see what that purpose is if you don't first of all express gratitude. So take that job that you're saying, oh, this is really not where I want to be. Oh, this person that I'm really low grade, but this is, no. express gratitude. Be content with it, right? Contentment does not mean that you then don't reach for something higher. It simply means in that moment you are grateful. You're saying, this is what I have in my hands and I'm grateful for this. Be content with it and understand that that opportunity is a gift. Somebody else is looking for that opportunity that you are despising. So don't despise it. Be content with it and be grateful for it. That will allow you to do the next thing, which is then to treat it as the seed of your future. If you don't have gratitude or contentment for what is already in your hands, you will not treat it as a seed of your future. You will keep cursing it. You will keep speaking against. I say, I just hate this job. I don't understand. You keep speaking against it. This blog that I started is not even going anywhere. I started a podcast. Only 2 people downloaded it. You will curse it. But be grateful. Be content that at least 2 people downloaded it. Do you understand? Be grateful. Keep learning. Contentment is not, as long as only 2 people download it for the rest of my life, that's okay. Contentment is, I'm so grateful for these 2 people. And then I'm going to keep honing my skills. I'm going to keep honing my marketing skills, my ability to be able to push it out there. I'm going to keep learning from people that are doing better than this. And I'm going to keep implementing that. You treat it, take it as a seed of your future. Orientate your mind honestly to see it as this thing that I'm doing now is a seed for the next that I'm reaching for. Joseph, Potiphar's house, just keep reminding yourself, this guy was a slave. And before he was a slave, he didn't have a choice. No, there were other slaves there, but he was the only one that stood out because of his diligence and dedication, and as a result of that, he was promoted. Because when you treat something and you lift it up to God in gratitude, the blessing of God will come upon that thing and cause it to multiply. That's exactly what happened to Joseph. Potiphar was like, these things are prospering in your hands. It's because he treated with gratitude. Even though he was a slave, he was like, do you know what? I treat this thing with gratitude. And it was the same attitude he had when Mrs. Potiphar came. Say, no, this thing, I'm so grateful for it that no, I'm not going to do anything that's going to curse this thing that I have. So treat it as a seed of your future, even if it appears completely irrelevant to your future dreams or the things you believe your purpose is all about or the things you're passionate about or whatever. And number 3, the third way for you to start from where you are with what you've got or to start small is to take the big grandiose things and break it down into small actionable steps by asking yourself, what can I do right now with where I am that's going to lead me in that direction? Just ask yourself that simple question. So someone says, I want to be a baker. That is really where my passion lies. But at the moment, they're an accountant. Be faithful in your job as an accountant. I promise you that the skills you're developing as an accountant, and the more you grow and rise, so you get promoted, you become a team lead, being able to manage a team, that's going to help you when you eventually open your bakery, right? Can you see that there's a connection? But what we're saying is then take a step further and say, this is what I really want to be doing, but what can I begin to do now? How can I inject something into what I'm doing now that is going to lead me into my future? And I gave you an example of myself. For me, I just thought I want to share. I want to be able to quote and unquote, in fact, I was going to say coach people, but it hadn't even entered into my mind to become a coach. I just felt like I want to be able to influence people with what I'm learning. And there's an element of coaching to that. But I wasn't thinking of coaching. I just thought, how can I do that? Well, let me write about my experiences. I'm sure it will help people, whether they're newly married or they've been married a long time. Reading my experience, reading the lessons that I'm learning is definitely going to help them. So ask yourself, what can I do right now about this grand vision, this grand purpose that I have, that I see myself fulfilling? What can I do now that's going to lead me there? So that's it for me for today in this episode. We're going to continue all season long. We're talking about purposeful living, and I'm going to continue in episode 4. Next episode, I'm going to talk about stepping out of your comfort zone. How do you muster the courage to step out of your comfort zone? Because at some point you're going to have to do that if you want to live out your purpose on the earth. This is Olaomi Brigwe, and I look forward to being back next episode as we continue this journey to purposeful living. See you then. Bye.